This definition is what is called or referred to as adjustable frame. An adjustable frame, that's an unusual thing to call a frame. What's adjustable about it? What they really mean is a frame that can telescope over the end of a wall and basically slip together so that you can accommodate an irregular condition. So you've got hollow metal frames, you have wood frames, you have light gauge steel frames, pressed steel frames that are used, or roll formed maybe, that are used in light duty commercial applications. Hotels, you'll see them. You have a requirement where you want to take half of the frame and bring it in from this side, and the other half of the frame and bring it in from this side, and attach it together. I've had, just recently, last week, a client wanted to order a wood frame. He called it a split frame. Now, I know what the term means and how they want to apply it. They want a frame that they can bring from one side, and then the other side. And that's really what an adjustable frame is. I want to bring half of it from here and half of it from here. Why would you do that? There'd be no real reason to do that when you have standard construction happening on the project. The thing is, standard is usually not the standard. You have an application where you want to be able to accommodate a frame over a wall that might have an unusual rough opening, or maybe a standard rough opening, doesn't really matter. Or it might have an irregular wall thickness, meaning the wall thickness measured at the top, middle, and bottom is different. And that could all be different than on the other side of the wall. You won't really see that very much in new construction, but you certainly will in very old construction. You know, old cities, Chicago, Detroit, New York, you'll have very irregular walls. And I tell you this, like you may have been taught in high school, that if you measured a piece of glass, like the picture window of your house, it's thinner at the top than it is at the bottom. And that's because of decades and gravity pulling what is technically liquid down towards the bottom of it. A wall is not different necessarily, where if it's been the first floor wall thickness has been holding the weight of 5 masonry stories above it over a century, that wall thickness can end up being a bit irregular, or it's just built irregular in the sense of what was done to it, or it was there was damage. You know, you might have had things happen to the opening over the decades, and that you've got a frame it's like a ½ inch thicker down here than it is up over here. And a lot of people will go to the adjustable or the slip style or the expandable style. All these terms are used to describe this concept as the answer to the problem. And many times it's the answer to the problem. The client last week with the wood frame, and he wanted a split frame. I spoke to the client, why do you want a split frame? Well, because I want to be able to attach it from one side of the wall to the other side of the wall. And I said, well, why would you want to do that? Why not just take your this job is a couple of 3070 1 3/4 hollow core birch doors hung in a 6 3/4 inch solid pine frame. And I said to the client, why would you want a split frame though? I mean, what's the advantage for you in that? Well, isn't the casing going to be applied on both sides? So the client was thinking that the ranch, colonial, modern, whatever the detail, the casing would be applied to both faces of the frame, and in his thinking, I cannot slide this in. So I want to take I want to take the frame and split it, and take this piece and bring this piece in together, understanding that's what the client wanted to do. I then said to him, well, that would mean then your stop would be loose or attached to one side only, and that you're going to nail through the stop, through the frame, probably into the stud. He says, yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. And I said, well, what if the casing wasn't attached on both sides? What if it was loose on both sides or attached on one side? You would take that unit, slide it into place, assuming the wall is a regular thickness, not irregular, and then attach the casing. He says that would work perfectly. Great, so that's a good idea because we avoid the cost of your adjustable, your split, or your expandable type frame. I did a job for a client last year, and they were doing a level 5 ballistic opening, maybe level 3. Don't quote me. It was not the heaviest, about mid-grade level ballistic. I think level 5. So you can look up the ballistic rating of a level 5 situation. And what the client was doing was he didn't have an irregular wall, but what he wanted to do was to take the 1/2 of the adjustable slip expandable frame and take his ballistic material, which I forget the thickness, it may have been 1.25 inches thick, which can actually be cut on a table saw. It'll stop a level 5 rating on a ballistic, which I don't recall the caliber of handgun, or maybe above that, but it can be cut. So he was taking the ballistic material and wanted to apply it to the inside throat profile of half of the frame so that he could bring that, slip it into the opening, make sure that that was secure and exactly where he wanted it, and then bring the inside other half of the slip expandable adjustable frame, which is just at that point a piece of integrated trim is really what it is. So the client used this expandable adjustable slip frame for that purpose. Now, the way the SDI is referring to it literally is a frame with profile in 2 or more pieces to accommodate various wall thicknesses, as referred to as an expandable frame or a split frame. Yes, those terms are all used interchangeably. It's literally when you've got a wall that's, 6 inch over here, 6 3/4 down here, there's no way to change that. There's no way to make that uniform. So you can get a frame that will slip together, that you'll be able to make it look like it's just the way it's supposed to be. Obviously, the half with the door is going to need to be true, plumb, level, and square, but you'll be able to adjust the inside so that your rabbet dimension on the inside will go from here to here. See, it's not the end of the world. That's the lesser of all evils. You cannot change this wall opening at all. There's no possibility of changing it, and you're dealing with, what's been presented to you. Let's switch to the screen view and let's take a closer look at some supporting information. This portion of this video is just to take you into a tour to show you what different manufacturers' concepts look like, and these are just literally random off the top of my head. Carpen Steel is a quick ship outfit that we occasion. Nice folks over there. They've been in business for decades. They do have an expandable style frame, and what's interesting is the SDI glossary image is not unlike this at all. So here's a split frame. They call it a split jam or a split frame. You obviously have your door component here. Okay, that's going to go into place. This is going to, I'd probably slide the opposite in first, slide this over it, get that shimmed so that it's in place, and then bring the rest of this over, dimpled for a number 14 screw, and you're going to go all the way down through into your stud, or whatever the wall is comprised of. That would be considered a very typical application for this. And you can see if my wall thickness was 6 inch at the top and 6 5/8 at the bottom, this type of frame will tolerate that. It's key to make sure that this, again, is true, plumb, level, and square when it's installed, but this is where you're going to use that. Another example, and I'm just going to show you different examples as they are different by different folks. Back many years ago, Kiwani had a frame. I forgot what they had called it, but nonetheless they had it. DKS is an importer of hollow metal doors and frames run by former Amweld folks, as far as I know. Expandable, and this was the frame I used on that level 5 ballistic project. Different concept in the sense that it will telescope together and give you a range of what this can handle in terms of its capability for wall thickness. These expandable or split or adjustable frames, they're always more expensive than a standard frame, but you're probably not doing a ton of openings and you have one or a small quantity of unusual ones. This is what those slide guides look like, and it's shown here a little bit better. And you can get the concept by looking at it in the cross-section, how that will telescope back and forth. And then once you have that all said and done, yes, you're going to need to permanently affix that. you're probably going to elect to run a screw through the soffit into the backing steel and then into your wall construction. So here's a different way to do it. Okay. A third way would be in the Seco catalog. In their tech manual, actually. And I know that's way down deep in the technical manual. It's called their RS frame, which I think is quite back through. And I've been through here enough to where I kind of have an idea of where it is. Okay, there's the RS, the ready set frame. Again, similar concept, but different. Everyone's got their own design, it seems. And same sort of logic of what you can end up making happen with this type of material. You can see how you might slide those pieces together here at the head and the jamb. And then you've got the hinge jamb profile here. So the hinge jamb is going to look like this. The head and the strike jamb will look like this. This detail here is what I'm showing. But again, this system allows you to install it, two parts over a wall. It's not going to be used for an irregular type of wall construction because of this design. They can certainly manufacture. You can get the idea out of this, but you can see where this type of expandable frame from a certain manufacturer will look inherently different. The ready set frame really exists, I think, to address the client or the contractor who is accustomed to installing frames in pieces like this, rather than having a single knockdown drywall frame that will encapsulate the wall altogether. I don't personally see the advantage to this type of frame at all, when you can just use a knockdown drywall frame and cap the end of the wall. That's my opinion, but I don't make a living installing frames. But I would just opt for a single frame, and then through here you'll see how this all attaches. Attaching the header and the strike jamb is done through the mute in the frame. There's obviously going to be mute holes that you'll have access to. And then the hinge jamb will go together with this sort of clip system here, the typical drywall compression system that you have. Okay. So different ways to do it. Let's wrap up this video. So if you have an irregular wall thickness and you don't know what to do, what some people will do is take a knockdown frame, like a knockdown drywall frame or masonry. Drywall would probably be better because it will have the compression anchors. And create the throat opening in that frame to be the largest dimension. And then they'll literally go back and fill in the back of the frame with backer rod and huge, beads of caulk that are increasingly epically large. I would not encourage that at all, as that will certainly be a maintenance issue. Every time the door closes, it's going to break that bead of caulk. You'll see that happen all the time. You'll also see it when someone is installing a 4 7/8 frame down onto a 4 5/8 wall, when the drywall isn't the stud, the stud. You're using wood studs with 5/8 drywall rather than metal studs. You'll need a different wall thickness. You'll see a bead of caulk go down there, and you're only noticing it. I think only a door person would notice it because the dimension from the face of the wall to the face of the frame, it will look abnormally greater. It will have a greater projection, so you'll say, oh, they caulked that. They used the wrong size frame. So rather than make a frame that's got that throat opening and then just filling your irregularities from the backside of the frame to the face of the wall, consider an expandable frame, or slip, or adjustable. Those are the terms used. SDI uses adjustable. They are noticeably more expensive. We did that DKS frame only because it came to mind. I knew they were in stock. The client wanted to get this all going, that kind of stuff. Didn't want to have a factory make it, and it met the criteria that the client had, is the bottom line. So irregular wall thicknesses, think an adjustable frame. Any questions on the adjustable frame or any other component about this discussion, please feel free to reach out. My name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. Thank you.